I am back from a photo event in London, and it was a Societies one. And in before I've reviewed these guys, you can check the reviews out. So at times I've had mixed opinions of it. And I'm not going to dwell on them now. You can go watch them. But when I was asked if I would consider being a speaker, I thought, you know what? After everything I've said about them, I need to go and do my thing, right? And I was like, let's do it. So we went. I went. I genuinely, I'm going to tell you now, I had a great time presenting. I was just very disappointed in how few people attended. Now, I'm just saying this, I don't think it's like a thing just at the Societies. I think there was a lot of hard work that was put into it, but it was noticeably, and I was talking to people in the bar, I was talking to people at the event, noticeably smaller. There was less footfall. Some of the people who were there mentioned it seemed to be a little bit quieter than before, and I think it does, and it's telling me one thing, right? We need to have an honest conversation as photographers to why we're not attending events, and I'm going to go into it on this video because I think we are going to lose events, and yet we complain constantly about not having events. I also want to say this is not a drag on the show because that's very unethical, but it is definitely a talk about how this show reflects so much of everybody else's shows and the problem we've got with shows. The reason I'm wearing glasses is I twat myself in the eye and it hurts, and you don't need to see that. I had a really good time, and that from what I understand, people had a really good time. My talks were well attended. For me anyway, I didn't expect there to be, considering the footfall I was seeing, and that I had quite a good numbers, I think, and I had people who went for my first talk who came to my second talk, and I had a really good time. The problem is that there wasn't enough people there, and I don't know what's going on with the industry, but we are less and less showing up for events, and I think it's a real shame. We complain quite often that photography is very isolated, that we don't have things that we go to, it's very toxic, blah, blah, blah. So these are just in the comments I'm seeing. When you have an opportunity to go to an event, and you don't go, it makes me wonder why we're not going to them. And it's not just this show. I went with a friend to another show not too long ago, and we were shocked to find that we were one of the few people at the show, despite all its advertising and everything that went on. For me, I think this is a worrying sign for times. Like, I think events are having to work really hard to entice us, and I will think some events will go, not because they're not great, but because people are just not being enticed out. And there are many reasons why people are not getting enticed out. So I want to discuss those. And again, this is not a drag on any show. This is not, I'm not going to bite the hand that feeds me, but I'm definitely thinking we are seeing a shift in how people are spending their time and their money and where they're choosing their education from. And I think it goes to show, and I will say this is the first time I would say that the Societies show has done really good. There was a real vast, diverse level of subjects, although I will say a lot of it was heavy into marketing, which is fantastic because a lot of people identified this is their area they're struggling with. There was a bit on AI and that. I just think for me, there's some things that we can tidy up on shows all over. And I speak at a lot of shows, so I'd like to think that this is one that I have an area that I can talk about, okay? But I also attend a lot of shows as well. So let's start with some of the issues, I think, with shows that are based in London. Because there's been a few times, right, if you might remember, the photo show was in London as well. Here are some problems. One, it's London. Like, people can't always get to London, and it is incredibly expensive to go to London. I don't care what anyone says. Travel, parking, food, hotels, underground costs, which I know comes into travel, just all of that. And if you're setting up a stand, you've got ULEZ charge, you've got the congestion charge, parking for your vans. Not every hotel has van parking, as someone found out recently, right? I think we need to acknowledge that it is expensive. And I'm going to tell you another thing that annoys me about London is not entirely accessible. London tries its best, I'm sure, but like after the last photo show when we went, I had to help one of the attendees up some stairs because they had damaged their back and couldn't make stairs, and both lifts for the station we were at were not in use, which meant they were completely isolated and they could no longer stand. I ended up carrying all their luggage up and then helping them up the stairs. I think there has to be said that when we choose London events, we are going to acknowledge that it's going to cut out a vast majority of our audience because A, they can't afford the hotel that it's being put in, or the location is awkward to get to, it's not accessible, and there's all those additional costs. I will say it also depends on what time you're doing it. The Societies announce theirs straight away that it's always in January, so you can save up for it. But if you are not aware that it's happening in January, I think after all the cost of January, it's going to be a bit harder for you to run. And January is typically a quieter month for photographers, so I don't know if that means for everybody it's financially quieter. I would imagine it is, but also, you know, it ran Wednesday to Saturday, which means ultimately you might have to take time off from work or time off, and that might cost you. And there's obviously the childcare costs and life costs involved in all that. But for me, there is some areas that they should really look at. And I'm not saying I love it being in London because it means that I can go off, I can meet people, I can travel around London. For me, it's still a novelty to go work in London despite living in London for a short time. But I still like it. I think it's in a great location as well, considering, you know, yes, it's Hammersmith, but it's not central central, so it's crazy, but it's not like in the middle of nowhere, okay? Like, it's really close to the train station, and it gave a nice vibe. But I do think there is a reason why people aren't showing up, and I wonder if partly it is the London location. I mean, I would imagine it attracts a lot of London photographers, but even still, the footfall was quite low. There was a lot of international performers, photographers. Internationally wise, it's really well situated because London is an international hub. It meant people were able to fly in. There was loads of people from Scandinavia there. There were some Americans there. You know, we have people from mainland Europe there, and it was really, really good for that. You know, if there's an international airport, fantastic. And London's got loads, right? It's like Birmingham, why it's so good. There's an airport there. It's really, really good. Okay. And it was also good for those who were traveling from Scotland because you can fly into the city airport, and they were able to get there really relatively quickly and easily. So I think it was a really good location. But there were some little things I think is preventing people from going to trade shows. And it's not just, again, at the societies, but this is from talking at other shows with other people and what they think. And over time, I have reviewed some, and I know that's had a few people have not been happy about me reviewing, but I do think we need to review shows based on the fact that A, is it financially viable for people? Do they get stuff from it? And would people go again? So that's why I do the reviews, because if you're going to charge me money to go to a show, and I do pay to go to some shows, I want to make sure I'm getting value for money. One of the benefits of going to shows is that when you also, as photographers, feel isolated, you feel like you're just on your own, these shows allow you to interact and meet people. But again, I think it comes up to the fact of if these people are coming, then you're more inclined to go. But I want to tell you now, if you don't go, they're not going to go. So we need to start going and showing up for these events financially if we can. Again, I know that finances is a privilege to have, but if we are professional photographers, maybe this is something we look at as it's not a treat, it's a work expense, and then it will benefit us. Because I think this version of the societies was a really good one to go to, okay? I don't care if you don't want to go to the awards, nice food. The naans weren't great, but that's because they were sat out. But everything else was great. The fish was, Anyway, if you don't go to that, great. It doesn't matter. I think that there was a lot of education there to have, but I do understand the price wall, and some people just couldn't justify it. But I think even if you just went for the day and you wanted to go to the free thing, there was enough there to kind of justify at least half a day of visiting what you wanted to visit without the expense of doing the master classes, which is what I was doing, or the super classes. So the master classes for me, I hadn't checked the ticket price, but I think you could only see 3 or 4 a day. So really you had to pick very carefully what you wanted to see. But again, if you're only coming in for the day and you're going to do a few on the stands and then you were going to go in, perfect. But I do think that it was a smaller show this year because they can't, with the footfall, it was weird to note also there was only one printing firm there in physical form, as in a stand, and they were really busy. But yes, footfall for me was down. But again, you as an industry are complaining that you feel isolated and alone, and there you are, not showing up at somewhere where you could have met with people who understand your woes and understand the problem. But we were all like, no, I don't want to go. I just want to do my own thing. So for me, I was like, what are you doing? So I got back on Saturday and I spent much of my time after putting everything in the wash and getting a decent night's sleep. Your girl cannot cope with arguing couples in the room next to her. Honestly, done. And then when they make up in the morning. Anyway, good for you. You're happy married now, but like, I didn't need to hear everything. First world problems. Right. Let's talk around what I heard from people, why they don't attend any event or certain events. I'm not going to name the events, but I think this is something that we need to think about when we're going to events. So for me, there's always check the cost, because while it's great to go, there is cost. It's not just ticket cost, it's travel cost, loss of business because you could be at work working, okay? And all the family costs. So maybe you have to get a babysitter, a cat sitter, a dog sitter, a goldfish, I don't know what it is, right? There's also the travel there for food and drinks, okay? So, okay, we know cost. Maybe that's not a factor. But I also think the content is important. I personally don't enjoy shows who repeat the same content every single year. I don't want to see the same people doing super classes or the same people doing expert classes, whatever you call them. It's the sites that calls their super class, isn't it? So I'm not talking about the site specifically, but I don't want to go to a show and see the same people doing the same show. I want to see diversity. If you're such a diverse show, I want to see that diversity in the classes that you do. Obviously, that's reliant on who applies, but I also think you should be able to reach out to people and say, hey, would you consider doing a class? Which is how I ended up in the masterclass, because Colin sent me a message, hey, would you do a masterclass? I also think that we are bogged down with expecting the same thing from the same people. Like for me, there are certain people who do talks and they're amazing talks, but they do the same talk every time. That to me doesn't encourage new eyeballs on the platforms. It doesn't encourage people to interact more. It just says, oh, she's redoing that, I don't need to go see that, I saw that last time, or he's doing that, I've seen that before. I think shows need to be very careful about what content they're allowing on the stage and if they're saying the same thing as they did the last time. Another thing I think is very important to check, if someone is doing a course, say on marketing, social media or sales, they actually show how it converts and they give the real information. Because a couple of my friends went to one seminar not too long ago, and it was talking about the use of, I think it was like social media videos. So I think it was about like Facebook, TikTok, all that. And the person was talking all about theirs, right? And they were like, okay. And they spent more time talking about how great they were than they did about, hey, did it convert? And when my friend said, so how many sales have you got from these videos? And the person A, didn't know the answer, and also didn't want to answer the question anyway. And that was like, the whole purpose of this chat is surely to tell us this and to show us how it works. Otherwise you're just doing a vanity metrics show which doesn't have any conversion rate. So I think some shows do need to check the background of the person talking to them, or at least proofread some of the comments, some of the presentations, because some of them are bad. All right, I'm just going to say that now. The two things I found that people really spoke about is that they didn't feel like they would have the confidence to go. And I can't stress this enough. I don't think I've ever been to a show where I haven't felt comfortable to walk around. I know that might be my personality, the way I am, but I think if they're doing it to photographers, there's no right way you can't be there. I've been to shows where, yes, there has been a certain vibe, but I'm like, hey, I've bought a ticket. I have every right to exist there. So I think it's really important that we do go, and you don't need a friend because you will make friends, guaranteed. Photographers, if you're in a room with people who understand what it's like to be a photographer, you will find common ground and make friends quickly. There is, most shows often some sort of networking group or a meetup so you can make friends. And honestly, I don't think I've ever met someone at a show really who's been that much of a douche that I don't want to interact with them, she says. I probably have. Actually, there is two. There is two. One of them, yeah, there's two. If you know my reels from Instagram, it's a good time for you to go look. You can see me talk about my interaction with them on my Instagram reels. And the other thing I'm going to just say now, she says, oh, I'm well aware. Okay, right. There's something I'm going to say now that I'm well aware I am part of the problem. Online education has made us comfortable staying at home. Every person who does YouTube thinks that they can just sit there and watch it. There's something to be said having in-person education, even if they're just repeating their YouTube tutorial straight for you online. In person, it's so much easier for you to work with. And I think that's the problem we have. People are content with like, I don't need to go, I can just watch it all on YouTube. It's not the same. You get a better understanding. You can move around the set essentially and and you can ask the questions, but you can also be more inspired because you see the person physically doing it. I think we need to stop, like, online education is amazing. I offer YouTube videos and tutorials and Instagram and all that, but I think being in person is something that we should strive to do, because that one-on-one like interaction is so important, and it means that we can actually see the nuances that maybe don't get portrayed on the online content. I think we need to really understand that in-person education is so much better for learning, in my opinion. Obviously my opinion is only what that matters. Now, I did get asked as I was in the bar for the Societies, would I come again? Yes. I have been coming to the Societies Roadshow for a long time, and yes, I've not always found it as good every formation of it, but this one definitely opened my eyes. I think they were very more strategic in how they had things, and they definitely looked at the rules. I just wish more people went. I wish that they kept on this trajectory to have fresher content and fresher people speaking. I hope that the super classes keep growing, but maybe they look at some additional people to run a super class. Maybe a different person doing, like, so for example, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something. Maybe headshot, I don't know. Maybe there's somebody else offering it, not so you get a different teacher, a different dynamic would help. But then equally, I understand that you need to have familiar faces to drive people in because people like familiarity. It's that fine balancing act. So maybe my advice isn't the best, but I hope this inspires you to go to shows. My next show I think I'm going to be at is at the Photo and Video Show, one of my all-time favorite shows. It's very, very diverse. And I realize that's because it's a very large platform and they work very, very hard. But don't be poo-pooed into not going to the smaller shows. I know that they are really good. This one particularly surprised me at the Societies because although there was less footfall, I think that's got something also to do with the news financially that's been coming out. The budget came out, costs have gone up and all that. It was probably, in my opinion, one of the best manifestations, is that what you say, manifestations, editions of their show so far I've ever been to. And I really enjoyed my speaker slot. I enjoyed the interaction. I've actually got some really really good stuff out of this from a business perspective and a personal perspective, away from it, and because I was there and also talking about it and because I shared about it. So for me, if you want to keep events alive and having places that we can go that are specific for us, we need to start going to these events. Now, if you have had a reason that you have not gone to one event, please put it in the comments below. I would like us to have a very honest conversation, because for me, I think the society's show this time listened to their consumer base, they listened to the people and really pushed it hard. And sadly, from what I saw, I don't think there was nearly the footfall I expected. I hope that next year they do a bigger show because it's attracted more people, and this is my endorsement for it. I recommend going if they continue to go on the trajectory that they had from this show, because even I was tempted to go and see some talks. Unfortunately, my talk fell into the time when those talks were happening, but I highly recommend you go to them if they carry on like this. I hope they don't go backwards and just repeat what they've just done this year. I want to see fresh every time. It was really good. I also want to see you at the photo and video show and the other shows, the Wales and West shows. I want to see you at the road shows that go around, because I think we need to keep this industry having real human contact. One, we're going mad about the AI in sort of say takeover. I don't think it's really taking over. I just wanted to say that. But we're having this whole thing. We need to get more social with people. I think it's better for our mental health. It's better for our business because we can discuss, have disagreements, have nuance. Also, just networking and collaborations. And also think it's really good to see who else is out there doing what they do. So from me, my advice, if you're into it, is please go to a show. We need them. We need them more than we've ever needed them before. And we need to stand up for them and do what we want. But anyway, if you liked my talk at the photo video show last year, please come along to the next one. I will also be on a couple of stands, but take care. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the button. But I really would love to hear from you why you don't go to shows anymore. It'd be interesting to know. Bye.